Good evening. Today, the last day of 2020, decided to do a little bit of work on my Ashford wheel. One of them is the adjustment knob. So you can see by the picture here that this is a dark finish, not a natural finish on this old wheel. My treadle is a natural finish, so it kind of looks off. And my woolly winder is as well, but the let's see here, knock down some of that brightness there. So my adjustment knob used to be dark brown, and I went ahead and chucked it up on my drill, the drill press, took some sandpaper to it, cleaned up the shaft, which was kind of rusty, and took the finish off. And I much prefer the natural light wood finish than I do the dark. But when I bought the wheel, the price of the wheel was quite cheap, so I did not complain about the wheel being dark and not a light finish. So I'm thinking I'm going to start working on that and take some of this dark finish off and lighten it up. It'll still have some remnants of dark finish down in the wood, in the grain of the wood, because it's been there for so long. Not sure what year it is, probably an 80s version. And my dog doesn't like it. He thinks I'm talking to somebody he doesn't know. That's why he's barking. So one of the things that I found on my flyer assembly and the bobbin is the plastic piece here, the bearing. I don't like plastic bearings, for one. I turned this bearing around so there's not quite so much forward and back play, but there's still play as needed. And then this flyer had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hooks on each side equally, and I have no idea why they have hooks on opposing sides, because it really doesn't matter. You can have one row of hooks for spinning either direction. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a hill of beans difference. Not my experience here so far. So what I did is I took these ones off and put on 4 more in between the original 5 to create a smaller bit in between each time I put these on. So really old wheels have a lot of hooks, and I'm not too keen on cup hooks. I like the really old style hooks versus the kind of the tacky cup hooks. And so my other flyer for my other spinning wheel is going to have some fancy vintage style hooks put on and replace the cup hooks that are on that one as well. The other issue that I had was with the bobbin. So I'm going to take this off and I'll show you here real quick. So I'm going to pop that off, twist it just a little bit, and take this off, and we'll just set my string there. So get the whorl off here so I can show you. And so being an older setup, so we have the pulley or the whorl assembly here, 2 different speeds, and then the one for the bobbin, since I have it on double drive. So if you notice, there's a fairly good gap in there, and this just kind of slops back and forth, and I don't like sloppy. Little bit of movement's fine, but this in my opinion is too much, and 5 cup hooks or 5 hooks is definitely not enough on these wheels. That was a corner cutting thing, but anyway, so what I did is I found out what that gap was, and you can see it back behind here, that gap. So what I did is I had a piece of leather, and I cut a piece of square leather, drilled a hole that will fit over the shaft, but that's going to be on the inside. So this shaft is a little bigger here than it is on the inside. So I took it off, take the whorl off, and now we have this assembly here. So this whorl doesn't go all the way down to the end before it stops. And or it does, but it's just that nice big fat gap in there. So what I did is made my bearing, oiled it too, so that just slides right over the top, just like that. I found having it on this end is better than putting it on this end here. So we'll screw the whorl assembly on, and now my bobbin still spins, and there's just a tiny bit of play, but it allows the bobbin to spin freely. And so if it does butt up against it a little bit, it's going to hit an oiled leather. And so that leather bearing can be transferred from bobbin to bobbin when I change bobbins. And so I can twist this, get my twist that, put that on, snap that down into place, adjust everything loosely, and everything still sits nicely. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my drive band around, and I'm going to adjust my drive band so it's just snug. And then I'm going to put it on. So if you want to if you have a little gap and it seems a little bit sloppy to you, so this could be a little bit better too if it had a little thicker leather bearing. This would be actually better, but I don't want to, that's really skinny there, so I don't really need to put anything else. So this is a little bit of movement, and that's okay. That gives it free room to move around. So on this wheel, you want to make sure you oil the shaft. I'm going to put oil on that, and then oil on the plastic bushings, along with oil in your other places there too. So it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit, and everything spins. So we're going to set this up with some wool, and I'll do a little spin up and show you how it works with the new addition of the... Alrighty, so I do prefer to spin in my socks or bare feet. So if you notice that right there, my bobbin is loose enough on my tension to allow the bobbin to spin fairly easily. And not too tight, so it doesn't grab the yarn and pull it out of your hand. So, show here a little bit. And so we're gonna just a tiny bit more adjustment. Twist my yarn onto the leader. So I do spin rather thinly. I'm working for yarn that I can put on my sock machine. So I need to be consistently thin. And a person asked, how do you get consistent? Well, one is lots of practice. Once you get the draft issue dealt with, there's a couple good YouTube videos on drafting, and I've taken them to heart myself because it was just something I recently watched, and it has actually helped. And so now I'm going to just move to my next hook. My drafting hand, I got to be very gentle with it, just enough to control it, but not grip it like I'm trying to hold a gorilla back. But you do have to have some control. So, to get consistent in practice, one of the tools I found was this guy right here. So it's wraps per inch, and also for lace weight, fingering, sport, DK worsted, Aran, bulky and super bulky. So those are the different sizes. So what I do is, while I'm spinning, so if I want this thin lace weight, or if I want fingering, so I'll spin my singles to lace weight, and I'll get about a fingering when I'm done plying. And you can just leave that right up on your lap. Just like that. And so as you spin, if you think you're getting a little thick, you just kind of set it down on there and look, and it's like, okay, I'm still good. And then continue. I tend to pull and draw back, short draw back. And then I'll just set my thread down there, and then I'll feed my thread on. And the more you practice, and if you have a tool with you to help, you'll get consistent, and your hands will learn this really well. And so you can just check it. You can check it as often as you need. And where you pull from your drafting triangle will also help determine how thick or thin your yarn's going to be. And I'm deliberately doing thin. And so one of the other yarns that I spin is flax to linen. And so I start out with this stuff here. And I spin that into thread here. And as you can see, this is like double the thickness that I'm spinning. And this ended up being in the fingering weight category, which is what I was looking for, 2-ply. I put it on my loom for linen, not wool, and created this fabric here. That's what I just got done doing the other day. And so it's just a really nice soft fabric with the fingering weight thread off of the loom. It's been washed already. I did do a lighter stripe down this. It was a lot lighter color, like what I just showed, but the dye, the walnut husk dye from the rest of this leached over into this when I was washing it, so it turned it into a light brown. But anyway, that's my piece of cloth for the linen. And this, what I'm spinning, is some of my wool, and I'm using it for practice. So about a couple fleece, I learned how to skirt them, wash them, prep them, either comb them or card them, and then spin them. So that spot got a little bit thin, so I can kind of tell now, but that's still within range here. And then I've got doubled up, which I can do as well. Okay, so I'm gonna change my hook a little bit more often than I was doing, because now that I have more hooks, I can make a nice, neater, cleaner bobbin, fill it up nicer. And so that's about it, just like that. So spinning with the new hooks has been really nice, though I haven't done it except just a little bit today. Having that tool, though, for size consistency, that's a big plus. So you have your drafting triangle here, and when you go to pull, you pull right at the base of that triangle, which is the size of your thread. And you pull, let it slide, pull some more at that point. If you need to go thicker, then you pull a little bit more up. but do it gradually if you're going to increase the diameter, but not by much. And I have my tension so it's not going to yank it out of my hand. Again, I'll check size. It fits right down inside. There's a little notch, so it just fits right down inside and just fills that notch. And then when you double it up, it should fill this other notch over here once it's kind of fluffed out. And that's the beauty of the tool. Helps keep you consistent. So you can see I've got a little bit of thread here on my bobbin, so I'm going to switch to the next one over. So I want to try and make it nice and even across. I do have a gap here because I think I missed a bit there, but so my left hand is just controlling the roving, and this is a roving top that I made from my Jacob fleece that I purchased, and did all the prep work for it. To me, it would benefit you to do that versus spending gobs and gobs of money, especially when you're first learning. Learn to prep the fiber because that'll give you what you need. And I just learned it all at the same time, and I did it to not only learn the process, but I also did it to try and save money. So others want you to buy all their stuff, and that's fine, and that's fine if you do, but I decided for myself that was not what I wanted to do. So here, it's a light sport to a pretty much a fingering weight after you're applied. So that's what I'm getting as a fingering. Now if you want 2-ply lace, then you have to spin even thinner than this. It'll make a lot of yards, but it'll take a longer time. And it's very thin, fine fabric if you're going to weave it or knit it when you're knitting with stuff this fine. So left hand is controlling the quantity of fiber and the drafting triangle. There's just enough tension. I can hold it back from drawing in. So here, see I'm pulling and my bobbin goes. That's the kind of tension you want. You don't want too much, don't want too little. Too little it won't draw on. So you do want it to draw on, just enough tension. I am using a linen, 2-ply linen thread for my drive band from the linen that I've made, and works beautifully. I did lightly wax it with beeswax, just to give it a light little bit of grip, but not too much. And so you can see here, since I have a lot of these hooks, I can get a nice even flow across, and Not let it build up too much before you change your hooks. And I found with my double treadle, it's easy to stop anywhere, change the hook, continue. So the last video of 2020. And again, check. And I've fallen right in that zone there. And that's where I'm at. So I'm going to leave it here. And you guys have a good new year and a good evening. And we're going to start out 2021 on a really good note and make this year good, even with all the stupid politics and crap. Excuse my language. But anyway. So there you go. And we'll talk to you next year.